My name's Trish Roberts, and you're watching Faint Signals from Vega. So, happy 2018. I'm a little belated. My computer was being fixed, and I've been busy, as I mentioned, during summer. It's summer here in Tasmania, Southern Hemisphere, and so it's been a bit busy and a bit crazy for me. And every day I think, God, I'd like to do a live stream, and then I just don't have the time. So anyway, this isn't a live stream, unfortunately, but I'll have to do that soon on Real Progressives and elsewhere. But so I just wanted to sort of, well, first of all, I got through the Christmas, the holiday period where there's lots and lots of celebrations over animal products, and as a vegan, that can be a little bit extra difficult when you're around people who are talking about what they're going to do to turkey flesh and all this kind of thing. When you think that they're, you know that they're sentient beings and that they're not meant to be food. They're sentient beings. They're not food choices. So that's, sort of course, you're surrounded by animal product consumption and animal use every day when you're vegan. But, at celebration times, it can be a little tricky. And particularly when, you hear the occasional dig, it's like basically implying by your very existence as a vegan that you're some sort of killjoy. I don't think that maybe slaveholders in the a few hundred years ago might have thought that about abolitionists. That they were killjoys, that they weren't into owning slaves, and what was the matter with them? Everybody's doing it. That's what I feel about it. When people sort of kind of think that vegans are killjoys by their very existence, or what's wrong with you? Can't you just... somebody said to me on my group, Days of Destruction, Days of Revolt, they said, can't you stop pissing people off by being, quote unquote, inflexible about veganism? And that's like saying, can't you stop pissing people off by being clear about why we're against racism? Or can't you stop pissing people off by being clear about why we're, against misogyny or heterosexism, etc.? That's how clueless that statement is. And that statement in some ways comes from a lack of understanding about what veganism is, and also trying to downplay it, even if somebody really knows what it is, trying to hope that you go away. Hope that you just sort of shut up, because you're basically interfering with somebody's good time consuming products of violence, consuming animal flesh and animal secretions and using them, etc. It's inconvenient to hear, even though, of course, being vegan today is quite much easier than what it was when I became vegan, which is in 2005. It's so much easier now, and it's really all in the head. The decision to go vegan. That's what veganism is, an ethical position. So once you've made that ethical position, this decision in your head, everything else falls into line, and it becomes one of the most the best things, one of the best things you ever do. And as many vegans say, the only regret I have about becoming vegan is that I didn't do it sooner. And that's so true. That's what I think. I wish that I'd become vegan, or knew about it or thought about it a very long time ago. Some people might think, oh, vegans are killjoys, and there's that meme that people like to throw out. How do you know when someone's vegan? Oh, don't worry, they'll tell you about it. Well, with any ethical position, with anything that's important, if you don't talk about it, then nothing is ever going to change. If everybody just thinks it's some sort of quote-unquote personal choice, nothing is ever going to change. It's not some personal choice. It's just like any other ethical position which rejects rejects the discrimination of sentient beings. We don't think it's a personal choice to be anti-racist, and we don't think it's a personal choice to be against homophobia and so forth. And yet people who are a bit challenged by the idea that non-human animals are not our property, they're not things, they like to try and frame it as that it's some sort of weird dietary thing. Well, I have news for people who are still going on about that, because veganism has actually crossed over. It's no longer some sort of, fringe philosophy. It's crossed over now into mainstream, literally. I'm not saying that everybody who is vegan has been vegan for what I consider the right reasons, which is the ethical reason to be vegan. But there are enough vegans in the world now that it's it's going to head toward, there's going to be an exponential, and has been an exponential rise, but it's really, really crossed over now into a sort of where people are starting to look silly when they diss it, when they sort of make fun of it, etc. Because I think it's in about 10 years' time, it's going to be a real, like a lot of people, there's going to be a significant amount of the population are going to be vegan. And one will start to look quite foolish saying anything negative about it. So, we may as well be on the right side of history now and look into what veganism is. Just briefly, we reject using animals for food. That's dairy, eggs, honey, flesh, clothing, that's leather, fur, silk, wool, etc., entertainment and other reasons. Basically, it rejects using sentient animals as property, as things, and recognizes their moral personhood, and that simply means we don't view them as a thing. Just as we don't view somebody from a different race as outside of the moral community. Well, hopefully we don't. And just because they're a different species does not mean that they are lesser. Just as when somebody is from a different race to us, that doesn't mean they're lesser. Or if they're gender diverse and have a different sexual orientation, doesn't mean that they are lesser or other. We're all interconnected, and that includes non-human animals. So, sorry, it's a bit windy here. As Tasmania can be, because it's an island off the coast of Australia, so it gets pretty windy here sometimes. Anyway, so that's really sort of what I wanted to say is that for those who sort of think that vegans are killjoys by their very existence, or that if we mention it, we're killjoys or whatever, that's a sort of that's going to be seen as a very backward kind of a thing to say. It's already a backward thing to say, but as time goes by, I think you might just have to sort of do some research yourself and see what it's all about, and start thinking in an open way instead of what's been you've been indoctrinated to believe since birth. To start questioning that, because it's like anything. If we're brought up to believe that another race is lesser, and then we finally leave home, or even if we see at school somebody challenges that, hopefully we think about it. And the same thing with this idea that non-human animals are property. Here is an opportunity for anybody who thinks that they are here for us to use. Here is an opportunity, just like any opportunity that we might have to address a discrimination. By the way, the little cat in the background is our new newly adopted cat who was from a family who became homeless. She's wearing a little bird be safe collar, if you're wondering what that is. It's not that we like to dress them up in fashion things, but I'm out supervising her, and so we put a little collar on her that alerts birds. Anyway, so you know, she, just as a side issue, Alia is her name. Her whole family became homeless, and they could not really keep the two cats that they were looking after, and that homelessness shouldn't even be a thing. You know, this is just as a side issue, which I'll talk about at another time. Neoliberalism has caused this sort of situation. Homelessness is not even is immoral. It should not even be, like, people who are forced to be homeless. That is immoral. That our system has been structured in a way that that's what's happening to people. So neoliberalism has to be crushed, and I'm going to talk about that in another live stream. I've talked about it before. It is anti-community, it's anti-people, and it has to go. So anyway, it's not fair at all. Anyway, so that's really all I wanted to say. It isn't a very long video, and I hope to do a live stream about, I've been preparing some thoughts about how we can stop ourselves being, how we can possibly address, you know, being stuck in sort of certain ways of thinking, so that we're not moving progress along in a way. Before I go, if you have ever thought about going vegan, or if you are curious, you're always welcome to email me at info@howtogovegan.org. That is a podcast site that I have made, a comprehensive vegan podcast site, and you can find that at howtogovegan.org. And you can listen to that anytime when you're walking, or if you're on a treadmill, or, you know, waiting for a bus or whatever. And I think it will help you go vegan. It's a site mostly about ethics, but it has some great nutrition information as well. Because there's so many sites that say they're vegan, but they talk about nutrition all the time. And you know, when it comes down to it, if something becomes inconvenient, you'll go, oh well, I'll just have a little bit of cheese, or I'll do this. I'll have a little bit of you know, it won't matter if I have this woolen coat or whatever. You know, people need to have an ethical position inside them, inside their heart and mind, and then, you know, sort of there isn't any sort of question about rejecting animal products, even if you're the only person in the room and there's nothing to eat except animal products and you're hungry. You won't even think that that's an option when you have internalized the ethical position. So if you know, I can't recommend becoming vegan highly enough, because it's unbelievable the positive impacts on the planet, the positive impacts on yourself, your mind and your body, and of course, most importantly, that we are not using sentient animals as things, and they have the right to live their lives free of our interference, free of our exploitation and killing and torturing. They have a right, just like we do. They love life and they do not want to die. Anyway, thanks so much for listening. My name's Trish Roberts. You're watching Faint Signals from Vega. Happy 2018. I hope it's everything that you wish it to be, and that in a good way. Thanks for listening. Till next time. Bye for now.